Beautiful. All right, welcome back to Restauranttopia. I got Anthony here, and I'm joined by Roger Beaudoin. And today we're going to unpack how to create raving fans for your restaurants. And this could be out of customers and employees, right?
Absolutely. It's both. And to do it well and to do it effectively, it really starts with your team. And then your team obviously make friends with your guests. And then the whole thing just has this exponential effect with social media, with word of mouth, which is always the most cost effective and powerful form of advertising anyway.
Isn't that funny? Like of all these
always.
years, all this technology, all these systems, all these tricks, tips, and hacks, word of mouth is still the most effective, isn't it?
Imagine a perfect world where you can build a restaurant, open the doors, and make loads of money. Unfortunately, those days are over. It takes great leadership, hard work, and long hours to operate a successful restaurant. Together, we can make it happen. This is Restauranttopia.
But you still have to build a superior business, and it really starts from there. So if your business is dialed on all, and running on all cylinders, your guests know instantly. You can walk into a restaurant and it feels like chaos, or you can walk in there just knowing that the systems are in place. People are liking what they're doing. They're enjoying working there, and they've been well trained. And that's really what a great experience is all about.
And it's funny how it boils down to that simplicity, right? They like where they work, and they've been well trained.
Mm-hmm. Those two things.
It's the craziest thing. And yet we're doing a podcast about it. So let's unpack this, Roger. Let's start from the beginning. How do you create raving fans for your restaurant?
Well, it really begins with, like I said, with your staff. And I've always believed that daily training is essential. And I'm not talking about 20 minutes or half an hour. I believe that every restaurant before every shift, whether you do 3 day parts a day or just lunch and dinner or just dinner, you should always have a pre-shift with your team on the floor. And a pre-shift is really about a game plan, a strategy, using your personality. I've always believed that the restaurant business is show business, it's entertainment, and I absolutely believe that every person that interacts with a guest on your team on the floor should use their unique personality to bring the food and drink and experience to life. And the only way you can do that is through superior product knowledge. Therein lies the training. So we never let anyone loose on the floor until they knew their menus inside and out, and they were quizzed on it multiple times. They shadowed our 8 players in best practices. They shadowed more than one person because there's not just one way to do things correctly. People have different styles. So the training was absolutely essential. But then once you let someone on the floor, then you kind of let them go and do their thing and use their unique personality. And you quickly find out that your staff are literally making friends with your guests and creating loyalty in these one-on-one interactions. But also, once they're delivering what I call amazing dining experiences, the product knowledge kicks in. And we also trained people in salesmanship, because you can have a well-trained person that's knowledgeable and personable and friendly. And I've seen this across the country when I travel. But still, they know the menus inside and out. They can answer questions if asked, yet they're still order takers. Maybe they've committed the order to memory. Maybe they still write it down on a pad and pen, but all they do is take the order, deliver the food and bring the check. And to me, that is just an average, ordinary experience.
Isn't it true, though, that we almost always, we hire someone with experience, and then we fall prey to the notion that just because they should know, we think that they do. And oftentimes they don't know, right? So going back to that training aspect, especially with salesmanship, we simply tell our servers or tell our staff, hey, just go upsell this, right? Upsell this. But we didn't really give them the tools to do it. It's kind of like, here, go build a house and then just figure it out, right?
Right.
Like, why not give them the tools? Why not show them how to do it?
That's essential. So that's part of the pre-shifts also, having a strategy, having a game plan. What are you going to say to each table? How are you going to read the table and figure out, is this a special event? Is it a birthday? Is it an anniversary? Is it just the night they didn't feel like cooking? Are they a first-time visitor? It's always been a pet peeve of mine. If I go out to a restaurant when a staff person just approaches the table, doesn't introduce themselves by name, which instantly creates a rapport with the guest and the table. So that's an essential. So it immediately makes your guests feel at home as if they're a regular, as if they're a repeat visitor, even if they're a first-time customer. And let's face it, first-time visitors come into restaurants every single day, and they don't know the first thing about what makes your restaurant unique, special, what they're going to enjoy. And it's really up to your staff to ask that question. Have you ever been here before? And if the answer is no, well, take them on what I call the magical journey and just literally turn them on to everything that we know as experts that they will enjoy and appreciate. And what happens when you make these suggestions? The check average rises. People have a better time. It's a superior dining experience. That's really
we were talking we were talking off mic a little bit about Josh Copel because we both share a mutual friendship.
Yeah.
And he said in one of the episodes we had him on, he said, people love being told what to do. And I can relate to that. When I go out to a restaurant, like I want to relax, I want to enjoy myself. I don't want to be bogged down with a ton of decisions, right? If I have a savvy salesperson in front of me that's going to guide me on my journey and let me take my hands off the wheel, kind of go cruise control, I am all for that. But they have to be trusted, they have to be trained, and they have to be knowledgeable, right? You can't just hand the keys over to anyone for any reason, right?
So if it's show business, I used to train my staff every single day. When the door opens for business, it's like the curtain's going up and you're all actors and actresses on stage and it's showtime, and that's when the personality comes out and you're creating these amazing experiences. There's a difference. Any restaurant has an image, right? It's what your guests think about your business, and that can be positive or that can be negative. But through all these processes and procedures and training and the people you hire and how you train them, suddenly you can turn your business from an image to an aura where it's something special. And now it's like the online reviews soar and people talk about it. And hey, you got to go to that place because I walked in the door and 5 people greeted me and said, welcome to let me tell you about this. And 5 people thanked me on the way out the door. And it's like, I really felt like I was special, even though I've never walked in the door before. That's an aura, So that's a very important element or ingredient in restaurant success. It's kind of like magic dust.
Something infectious about when the employees want to be there, right?
Oh, right,
and
right.
We spend a lot of time benchmarking off of national corporations, and I know there's a lot to get it right, but the one that always comes to mind that always blows my mind is Chick-fil-A. And you go to my local Chick-fil-A, and it's almost like the employees are truly jazzed to help you out, right?
Yes, yes.
It's like, how did they find these people? What kind of Kool-Aid did they drink? What kind of brainwashing did they do during orientation? But it's so funny because somehow they've compiled these group of individuals that are like-minded. They're obviously service-oriented, but they give you a legitimate smile. They make you feel legitimately good on your transaction. And it seems so simplistic, but it's not easy, right?
Well, it can be.
Okay.
Again, therein lies the approach. It's all about incentives, recognition, and rewards, which up-levels the morale, which creates a competitive spirit, a healthy competition among your team. And if you do team building exercises and contests and incentivize people for going above and beyond in the job, then suddenly that is immediately evident to the guest and in how people perform their particular jobs. So we had several programs in our restaurants. One was called Difference Dollars. We also had prizes that we randomly awarded for people for doing these amazing things. And, that was very powerful also. But I think it can be trained. It starts with a person because their character has to be in line with the values of a restaurant. Because let's face it, I've always believed there's 3 types of staff in any business: A, B, and C players. The A's and the B's, you want 20 or 30 of those people. The C's are those people that just show up for the paycheck and they show up late and it's at their convenience and they don't really care about serving the guest. And, you got to get rid of those people because it really affects the morale of everyone else. But if you've got A and B players and you continually train, then the B's suddenly become A's, and then you just have A's, and that's what I call the dream team. And those are the people that are turning on new customers to your business all the time and creating raving fans for your business. So there's a practice or a system to make that happen. That's essentially the core of it.
So let's unpack that a little bit. What's it look like in your restaurants? Obviously, you've operated a tremendous amount of successful restaurants. What's that look like specifically? So if someone listening could actually take something back to their restaurant, apply it.
It's very simple. So every week, my flagship restaurant had 53 employees. They didn't all work, obviously, at the same time, but 53 employees in a 300-seat place. But obviously, the majority of people worked on Fridays and Saturdays, which were our busiest days. So every week, I'd recognize one person on a Friday and one person on a Saturday before the doors opened for business. And maybe it was someone that I saw doing something amazing. Maybe it's just a story I heard of, because anybody in the restaurant could nominate someone for doing something extraordinary. We called it Difference Dollars because they made a difference. Maybe it was
did you have like a suggestion box where they could just put the nomination in there and at the end of the week you reconciled them, or how'd that work?
People would bring it to me. You got to hear what Sally did today or yesterday. This is an amazing story. And I think this person should win this week, And sometimes we'd have more than one, obviously, for a Friday and a Saturday. But I would basically sort of rank the impact that made, whatever it was. So like I was saying, it may have impacted a team member's experience in a positive way, or maybe they solved the guest's problem or really just went above and beyond, and it was something extraordinary, right? So difference dollars was me gathering 20 people, 25 people, whatever, together on a Friday, doing it again on a Saturday and saying, this week's winner of difference dollars is Sally. And then I would tell everyone what the difference was. And I would give Sally a $20 bill and a can of Red Bull and say, thank you so much for making this difference. And everyone would clap and go on to their job. And that raised morale. But the kicker really was me going in my office and typing up Sally, with big stars in the corners, on an 8.5 by 11. I'm just typing it. And this is what Sally did that made a difference. And I had all these frames that we got, from Target or Walmart or wherever they came from. And I had a stack of them in my office. And then I would frame it and we would hang it in an employee area or in the back kitchen or in the employee bathroom. And after years, there was literally no space left to hang these differences. And whenever somebody new was hired, you couldn't help notice they'd be reading all these things in their spare time. And it just spoke volumes about how we treated our staff and what our expectations were, what the standards were of the restaurant. And people either fit that mold or they didn't. And they kind of voted themselves off the island if they didn't feel they could rise to the challenge. And the bar was very, very high. But that's one of the reasons why we had a 96% retention rate in a seasonal business that was only open 4 months a year, and people had to go get other jobs, but they all came back again because it was fun. They were recognized, they were rewarded. That was a very simple program that cost me virtually no money. But think about how the guest experience was impacted. Think about how the morale just built. Think about how the turnover went down, and we built this chemistry, that dream team I'm talking about. And that was just one program. We had lots of programs, but that was a very impactful one.
I just love that Red Bull's a currency in restaurants, right?
It's true. Everyone seemed to like Red Bull in a restaurant. It was like, okay. And it's an energy drink and it keeps you on high. And it's like, you keep your bubbly personality going, because sometimes people would pull in doubles and they're working like 10-hour shifts and stuff and all that kind of, it's like, but people liked it. That you're doing something right when your staff and their coworkers hang out at your place when they're not scheduled to work. And there's incentives for that too. Sometimes after hours, but we did a lot of live music, and entertainment and things that were fun. So people came back for the concerts and all these other things that we did, but sure.
No, that is cool. They're spending their time at work on their days off. That speaks volumes of the type of people you hired. And I say this all the time, and it's really, really hard to do right now because of the staffing shortages. But hiring like-minded individuals is such an important notion, right? So often we say, we check your pulse, we bring you in, we get you hired, and we hope it works out, right? But when you take the time, you actually use tools like an interview rubric or things that help you kind of quantify the qualitative aspects of the human being. You can get closer to that journey of having the same type of person. Because let's face it, birds of a feather flock together, right?
They do.
You don't want a group of procrastinators and a group of go-getters, because then inevitably it's going to be like, the star-belly sneeches where they're going to separate, right? And then they're going to be at odds. It's much better to mix the pot of similar ingredients, so to speak, because then you have this synergistic approach, right? And then what it comes down to too is everybody makes more money, don't they? And that's the 96% retention rate. Of course, it was fun to work there. Of course, they like to work there. But why do we work in the first place? Because we're all making money.
Yeah, they were well compensated too. But, you make an interesting point, because our best source of new staff were our existing staff. It was like a recruiting thing, not a hiring thing. We rarely hired from outside. It's like, who do you know who's not happy in their current job? Because, I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but it's like there are a lot of employers out there that just don't get the simplistic idea of treating your people well impacts your business in a positive way, keeping them happy, fixing what's broken, asking them, what can I do to make your job easier, better, more fulfilling for you? We did that all the time. It's like we had routine sessions where we would call the entire team together for a half an hour in our dining room. We'd hang up, these big flip charts and throw Sharpies at everybody and say, throw out any idea that'll improve our business or, bring more customers in, cut costs, make things more, anything is fair game. You write anything up there. And if you come up with an idea that sounds like it's going to work, and if we try it, and if it's proven to have an ROI, I'll give you a percentage of whatever it brings in as long as you work here. And we did that. And you wouldn't believe how many amazing ideas came from just some of those sessions.
That makes so much sense, though, because oftentimes we discount the importance. We hired 53 people that we liked, at least to some degree, right? Or we needed.
Definitely.
To not rely on their intelligence, their enthusiasm, and their expertise, because let's not forget, they're the ones doing the jobs in the moment. Why wouldn't you want their input? Why do we sometimes just we take all the onus on ourselves? And I understand you're the decision maker, you're the owner. It's your legacy, it's your future. I get all that. But man, I don't see it enough. I love this because you have 53 bright minds in there that see things a different way than you.
Right.
Give me all the ideas you possibly have. I can aggregate, I can sort, I can get inspired, I can do all that. And it's a free resource. Oh, and by the way, it keeps people involved.
That's the key, involvement. If people know that their voice counts and that their opinions matter and that you recognize their talents, even if they could be any position in the restaurant, you could be a dishwasher, you could be a host, you could be a busser, you could be it didn't matter who it was. People came up with amazing ideas. And I also believe so many restaurants have their staff come in through the back door, park in the back parking lot, come through the back door, hang up your clothes. That sort of. No, it's like I had 52 people. I want you coming through the front door and putting your guest hat on and seeing what the guest sees before they see it, and empowering them to fix things so that the guest doesn't see it. If a window's dirty, if there's trash in the parking lot. And I always led by example. I'd walk through the front door and see things, and people would see me picking up trash or washing a window or changing a light bulb. You can't be too important, but training everyone to notice things. And we also had battle stations in the restaurant where everyone was assigned to police a certain area so that it was like the Marine Corps, and the beds were like bounce a quarter on it. It's like the tables were clean. The condiments weren't grungy. There's no gum stuck under the tables. The tables don't wobble. Like everything was checked by like 20 people before the doors opened for business. That was super important too.
It's just mastering the basics, right? But yeah, that's
super
the hardest
basic,
thing to do.
Super basic.
But we often don't see the forest through the trees in that regard. And to our point earlier, we were talking about like really, it all starts with good food and good service. Let's not kid ourselves.
That's critically important as well.
If you do both those things well, chances are you're going to succeed to some capacity, right? Let's face it. Like, we have that divey restaurant we go to that has the most amazing curry or the most amazing this or that.
Yes.
We'll overlook the dirt and the grime. We'll overlook the bad service, right? And then the inverse is true too. If we go to a place that Susie, the server, is just so freaking amazing, we have to be in her aura and her sphere. And we can overlook that the gravy's a little lumpy or the mashed potatoes aren't seasoned properly, right? But that's part of the experience. It's so funny though, how oftentimes that we can boil this down to simplistic notions of success, and yet we overlook them. Like a wobbly table can make a huge difference, right?
People hate wobbly tables. People hate a busser wiped a table, but he didn't dry it. And now you put your elbows on it and your shirt's wet. It's like, these are little details. You walk into the bathroom and a lady like leans up against the counter to get closer to the mirror to apply her makeup or lipstick. And now the front of her skirt is completely soaking wet because the counter was wet. These are details, that happen all the time unless you've got battle stations and duty rosters and regular checks. And these are critical details, but I call this the business of 1,000 details. And one person can't see it all, but you got to have everybody with their eye on the ball,
And that's the point I was going. I think so often the manager takes on too much responsibility and they get stretched too thin, right? You got to raise the expectations of your staff in that area. And I love that you break it down into bite-sized chunks and say, okay, this is, you three in this section, this is your battle station, this is your battle station. And then the manager only has to check intermittently in a few different spots as opposed to drilling down into the granular aspects of your business. Because again, there's not enough time in the day for you to look after everything as a manager, right?
I want my managers interacting with the guests and visiting tables and talking to them and making friends with them. In addition to the staff, it's like your office is on the floor. It's not in the back office. You can go in the back office at the end of the shift when you're cashing people out. But otherwise, if you're a manager, you're in the thick of the battle and you are making friends with guests and recognizing regulars and introducing yourself to people you've never seen before. And it's like, it's all about, creating that aura of special, I believe.
And let's go to that. We talked about table touches a couple episodes ago, and we all have like such a scorn for table touches this day and age, right? Because it's the exact opposite of special. And the manager comes up and you're in the middle of a bite and they're like, how's everything taste? And Brian and I joked, or Dave and I joked that they have one foot leading the other direction already. Like they're not interested in a response. They're just there to say that they checked in on you. They check the box and they move on. And it's like, my gosh, you squandered such an amazing opportunity to get feedback and also to make a friend. And by the way, if you make me as a friend, I want to come see you more often. And let's face it, repeat business is where it's at, brother.
If there's anything I can do for you, please let me know. I'm Brian. I'm the manager. I'm Anthony. You can find me. Please reach out. Let me know if anything isn't to your satisfaction. I'm always available. Just that. Yeah, that's the key to making friends and building repeat business. It lets you know that everyone really cares. And I think I already mentioned it was not uncommon in my restaurants for someone to be thanked 5 times by 5 different people on the way out the door and welcomed back. Thank you so much for coming. We really hope to see you again. Drive safe, whatever it was. It's like 5 different people would say that as a guest was leaving. It's like you feel like you're the Queen of England, for gosh sakes, People really appreciated that. So, but it was genuine. It was absolutely genuine because people were happy that worked for us. They were having fun. Like you said, they were making money. They were making friends. And the time passed very, very quickly. And everybody introduced themselves by name. And pretty quickly, it's like people would come back and ask for them. I want Sally to be my server. Hey, is Bobby the busser around? It's like, hey, how are you? And it's like everybody, it's the Cheers formula. People want to go where everyone knows your name. And that is so simple and so applicable to any restaurant. It's so profound. Basic, but
I love what you're talking about, the saying goodbye
very
thing.
Often.
You're familiar with Danny Meyer?
Absolutely.
For sure. He's kind of like on the Mount Rushmore and the Obi-Wan or whatever analogy you want to use.
Yeah.
But there was a couple things I learned from his team. You go back to that, like hiring by personality and hire by character, which has been a trend for a few years now. And I'll never forget, I was at a charity event in Philadelphia for Alex's Lemonade Stand. This is maybe 2013, 2014, somewhere around there. And I met a guy named Mark, and he was a director of ops for Shake Shack, which was a burgeoning restaurant group.
I'm familiar.
At that point in time, they weren't the global powerhouse they are now.
Oh,
but
okay.
He was telling me about how he hires, because I was talking to him about staffing where we were working beside each other, and he would say that if he has someone come apply, like a cook or something, he asks them what they're passionate about, and then if they said comedy or dancing or singing, he'd be like, okay, well, tell me a joke or do a dance or sing a song. And he would always gauge a person's passion by their willingness to get up and audition for him, And he says, listen, if you can get that passionate about that, I bet I can get you half as passionate about something else, right?
That's awesome.
And I loved it because he didn't care about skill. It was the first time I ever heard about hiring for character rather than experience. And
that is a very effective approach. We can train for experience. We cannot train for character or personality. Exactly. You either have it or you don't. And I love the fact that these off-the-wall questions or auditions happen because it is show business, of course. Mm-hmm. It's like, I want to see your true personality as a guest would see it for the very first time. Are you going to light up the room, or are you like a doggy downer? It's like, it's very obvious in a meeting, because if you ask standard interview questions, then people are going to answer them to tell you what they think you want to hear. And it's so inauthentic versus you put them on the spot and they either rise to the challenge or they sink, Yeah. It's like, we did a lot of that for sure.
Oh my gosh. Interviews are such a waste of time, right? Like it's so many of them anyway. I shouldn't say, obviously the process is integral in the vetting and recruiting and hiring, but it's like, man, how many times did I go into an interview and just try to get out of the interview as quickly as possible while hiring the person? I did myself such a lack of due diligence at the time. But it goes back to instant gratification. I was a busy manager or an operator, and I needed some help, and I needed a body. And you look good enough, your resume looks good enough, you sound good enough. Let's get moving. Let's get you in, right? And it was like, oh my God, if I could do that all over again, Roger, I would hit the rewind button real quick. I promise you, it might have been a little different for me, right?
I hear you. Absolutely true.
A lot less headaches. So this being said, all of this boils down to, you're talking about training, you're talking about hiring the right person. We've talked about this sort of thing ad nauseum on this show, and we can't repeat it enough. This is how you get to the point of where you want to be, right? It starts at the foundation. And unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, it all starts with the leader, right? The owner or the general manager. Then it trickles down from there. And that's what's kind of lovely about this, is if you're an operator out there listening, you're in control of your own destiny. You are a role model. you are the one in charge. You are the one who sets the rules. You give them the coloring book and tell them to stay in the lines, right? It all boils down to you. If you want to change it, you can change it today. That's the thing. It's like you don't have to wait. You don't have to do anything. You can just start acting differently.
I believe the word is empowerment. You know, it's been said that you have a system if you can walk away from your business for a day, a week, or a month. And when you come back, then things are just as successful and just as profitable, if not more so, based on your team. Okay. And that's where the training comes in. That's where the empowerment comes in. You give people additional responsibility. You let them rise to challenges. You recognize and reward that. And you critique them gently when they make mistakes. You don't slam them for mistakes because, let's face it, everyone learns along the way. But that's the difference between delegating and empowering, because I always believe that anybody can tell somebody what to do and even how to do it, but very few people can empower people and give them that responsibility, give them room to fail, encourage them along the way, and develop their talent, and then recognize and reward that talent. And that's when you can walk away from your business, because too many owners and managers are tied to their restaurants, especially now, obviously, for obvious reasons. The labor shortage is a crusher for so many people. But again, some of these techniques we're talking about, the recruiting, the way you treat your staff, the grass is not greener on the other side or in some other business if you treat your staff the way we're talking about. And then you can walk away. You can spend more time with your family, or, take a little much needed vacation because your staff are incentivized and they care to run your business the way you would run it. So,
well, they're stakeholders, right?
They're stakeholders. That's exactly
not
right.
only
Good
their
point.
personal gain is at stake here, but also their allegiance and loyalty to you as an amazing leader and amazing person, right? Yeah. I heard something the other day that I couldn't, and we'll wrap up with this. I couldn't help but think about it constantly. And someone said, you have to treat this day and age, you have to treat your staff like volunteers. And I was like, man, that's good, And obviously I see the downside of that. You don't want to be a pushover and everything else. But man, just think about the different mindset there. When I grew up in the industry, operators and owners act like they were doing me a favor for employing me, right? And it's an equal trade-off, really. And I have now, especially in this market, I have freedom to go wherever I want. So you have to appeal to me. You have to take on some sort of competitive advantage to make me want to stay, make me want to enjoy it. And I just love that mantra of treat them like volunteers, because how do we treat volunteers? Patiently. We don't yell at them. We don't take them for granted. We support them. We coach them. We train them. We allow them to make mistakes because, again, they're there for free. And That's you have to have some similar mindset to a degree, in my opinion, because the relationship can be fractured so easy just based on what you said. The grass is greener, and there's a lot of different grasses out there that employees have to choose from this day,
Yep. So, you got to be a unique employer, but you got to care. And like we talked about, you've got to lead by example and not be a figurehead. You've got to care as well. And you've got to treat people like they're special and give them a voice and fix what's broken. And that goes a long way.
That's it. And with the close of circle, that's all your foundational stuff: being kind, training appropriately, hiring the right people. And then all of a sudden, what do you have? You have raving fans, don't you?
I believe so.
So, Roger, this has been awesome, man. Thank you so much. Let's talk about this app that you've developed that you're changing the industry, revolutionary, as you called it, I think, at the top of the show. I think we need to hear about this.
Well, this conversation really started with training, daily training. And product knowledge is the key to increase sales and better dining experiences. So the app I've co-developed with a partner literally is customized to any individual restaurant or restaurant group. So imagine your menu, photographs of the plate presentation loaded into this app with the ingredient list, with any allergens, with pairings. What does this dish pair with? What bottle or glass of wine? What beer? So it's all loaded in there. And then there are quizzing tools where you learn category by category, appetizers, entrees, desserts, the wine list, the beer list. And you swipe right when you think you've got it. And you swipe left, no, I don't have that one. And then it'll rank you and score. Oh, I got 8 out of 10 appetizers correct. And then that report goes right to your manager, so the managers know who's up to speed in the menu. And there's quizzing tools, and there's contests and team building and incentives. And then the salesmanship piece comes logically after that, because once you know your menu inside and out, now you can make recommendations and suggestions and pairings. So it up-levels the restaurant's hospitality. It also has table layouts for every dining room with table numbers, because it's always been a pet peeve of mine when, a server comes to the table or a food runner and they auction off the food. Who had the burger? Who had the steak? It's unprofessional. But with the table and the seat numbers, then suddenly whoever delivers the food knows exactly which plate goes to which. So that's important too. And then finally, there are management training tools, or I should say leadership, because leaders empower and managers delegate. So now if you recognize up and coming talent in your business, there's a complete training course in how to run that restaurant, the finances, the daily break even, the food, beverage, and labor costs, putting an inventory system in place, the policies and procedures, the staff training piece, the marketing. All of this magic is logically presented so that an up-and-coming leader can learn how to run that business. And then finally, there are guest-facing features with a QR code where you can suddenly have your guest load your app on their phone, and now they can tell when you have a special promotion. Maybe Tuesday is, a wine pairing dinner, or maybe Thursday is Taco Thursday night, or whatever it is. There's also immediate feedback that you can send while you're in the restaurant. If something's going sideways or you have an issue, you can immediately send a message via text to the manager on duty right through the app and fix a problem before it turns into a negative online review.
That's scary, but I like it.
No, it's really effective, And then lastly, every obviously restaurant is looking for new people, and your best customers could be great referrals for your business. So there is on the guest-facing feature, a list of any careers or jobs available in that restaurant you can apply right via the app. I love this restaurant. We come in here all the time, and my nephew just graduated from high school and he needs a summer job, and I'm going to send him here. It's just another way of finding people. So all this is wrapped into an app that's called Serve, which is an acronym for Study Restaurant Variety. And the website to find that is servenow.com, and we have a free demo there. All you have to do is just click a button, and there's a video that kind of walks you through the whole thing, or you can actually speak to my partner and I, and we'll walk you through it on a screen share via Zoom in like 10 or 15 minutes. So it's pretty powerful stuff.
I love it, man. It sounds powerful. I would definitely be downloaded if I was still in my operations days. I appreciate you bringing it to the forefront, and kudos
thanks
and
for
congratulations. Asking. Kudos and getting this off the ground and at the point in the business where you are, because a lot of times this is just a dream and now it's come to fruition for you.
Yeah, it's been many years in the making. It's been a long-term project that clearly has so much potential just to up-level the industry. And really, we believe that hospitality should not be replaced. It should be interaction with people, and technology is there to enhance hospitality, not replace it. So that's our goal.
Love it. Well, listen, Roger, thank you so much for your time today, man. I appreciate the wisdom, the insights, and the experience you share with our audience. Kudos, man.
It's great talking to you, Anthony. Thank you so much. And we hope everyone stays well.
Thank you.
This is a high quality pod. Thank you, everybody.
Take care. Adios.
Thank you for listening to Restaurantopia. The gratitude that we have for each and every one of you spending your precious time to listen to this podcast is immeasurable. Please make sure to tell a friend about this podcast. And also, if you have any feedback for us, visit us on restaurantopia.com and drop us a line. You can also subscribe on your favorite place to listen to podcasts. Thank you and have a great day.
We are excited to announce the Restaurantopia VIP Text Club. Join by texting the word podcast to 844-928-4257. You will get access to exclusive content, industry news, deals, announcements, pro tips, and more. The VIP Text Club is an exclusive community of independent restaurant owners and professionals. Join today. Message and data rates may apply. Please check our website for our terms of service and privacy policy.
We also want to thank our sponsor, Hillcrest Food Service. If you are a local independent restaurant and are looking for a distributor who has chef and operational consulting, provides marketing support, does menu reviews, and most importantly, wants you to be successful, reach out to Hillcrest Food Service at hillcrestfoods.com.